For centuries, a massive historical truth has been completely locked away, totally inaccessible. But what if I told you that a revolutionary piece of technology just found the key, and it's about to rewrite a pivotal moment in English history by revealing the identity of a king's killer? And we're not talking about just any old moment in history. We're talking about the identity of the man who killed a king on the battlefield, ending an entire dynasty. For half a millennium, historians insisted this guy never even existed. Well, it turns out they were just spelling his name wrong. So here's the puzzle that had everybody stumped. On one side, you have the official history books. They insisted that the knight who supposedly killed King Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth Field was a complete fabrication. But on the other side, you have these persistent Welsh legends, stories passed down for generations that not only named him, but described the whole thing. So let's start with that legend, the tale of this ghost knight. For centuries, the story kept being told of a knight who, with a single blow from a poleaxe, ended the Plantagenet line for good. But when you looked in the official records, nothing. He was nowhere to be found. I mean, just think about that. The guy who arguably handed the Tudor family their crown was treated as pure fiction. He was completely written out of history, dismissed by every serious academic as a fairy tale. The trail wasn't just cold, it was frozen solid. So why couldn't anybody find him? Well, the answer lies in something we can call the prison of spelling. You see, historians were looking for a needle in a haystack, but they had no idea that the needle looked completely different from what they were expecting. So if you did a normal search, the kind people have been doing for ages, this is what you'd find. Using the modern spellings Gardner or Gardner, you'd get a measly 23 records. And those pointed to 6 different guys, none of whom had anything to do with killing a king. A total dead end. And this is the absolute key to the whole thing. The problem was never a lack of evidence. The evidence was there all along, but it was basically hidden, encrypted by the way people wrote things down back in medieval times. A single name could be spelled dozens of different ways. See, these weren't typos, it was just how things were done before spelling was standardized. So you've got a 500-year-old code. How in the world do you break it? Well, you build a brand new kind of key. And this is where the picture starts to change completely. And that key is this incredible new tool called Sir William's key. It's basically a universal decryption tool. It doesn't just look for letters, it reverse engineers how a medieval scribe actually thought and wrote. It uses algorithms to figure out how a name sounded, and it learns the specific quirks of clerks from different regions. It treats all those spelling variations not as mistakes, but as a systematic code that can be cracked. And the number of variations is just mind-blowing. The key can connect over 140 different spellings for the exact same family name. We're talking Gardinier, the Welsh version Cardinier, the French Jardinier, the German Gardner, even the literal Latin translation Hortulanus. All of a sudden, you're not just looking for one name, you're looking for an entire network. Okay, so this is the moment. This is where the story goes from a historical puzzle to a data-driven bombshell. This is when the key goes into the lock and the door to the past just gets blown clean off its hinges. I mean, just look at these numbers. On the left, you've got those 23 records from the standard search. And on the right, what Sir William's key dug up, 1,187 records. The evidence wasn't missing, it was just completely invisible to our old search methods. Let that sink in for a second. That's a 51-fold increase in the raw data. This investigation went from a few disconnected clues to an absolute mountain of evidence practically overnight. And here's what happened when all that data came pouring in. All that noise, those 6 separate, unrelated men from the first search, they suddenly collapsed. The data resolved into a single, continuous identity, one extremely wealthy, extremely well-connected, and, as it turns out, extremely dangerous man. So who was this guy? The key didn't just give us a name. It revealed the entire financial machine behind him. See, the man who killed the king wasn't some lone knight acting on his own. He was the tip of a very, very wealthy spear. His name was Sir William Gardner. Not a myth, but a real person, a rich and powerful member of the Skinners Guild in London. And the records show he died in 1485. The very same year as the Battle of Bosworth Field. The ghost finally had a name. And this quote really says it all. Gardiner wasn't acting alone. He was backed by a massive financial syndicate of merchants who, for all intents and purposes, funded the overthrow of the king. They didn't just win a battle. They basically pulled off a leveraged buyout of the English crown.
But wait, because the story doesn't stop there. It gets even bigger. The assassination of a king in 1485 wasn't the beginning of this family's power. Nope, it was the culmination of something that had been building for 2 millennia, a pattern of influence we can call the Garda Protocol.
You have to understand, this wasn't some random act of violence on a battlefield. It was the ultimate expression of his family's long-running strategy to control the logistical heart of England. This single act was the result of one family line consolidating its power over the flow of wealth for 2,000 years. And this timeline is just staggering. It shows an unbroken chain of influence. We're talking Roman administrators in 50 CE, who then become the Anglo-Saxon ferrymen controlling the river crossings, who then become the Norman auditors assessing wool tolls, and finally, they become the Tudor kingslayers. They didn't just adapt to new rulers, they were the constant that every ruler depended on. So here's the big takeaway. This family wasn't just another group of merchants. They were like the deep state of English logistics. For 2 millennia, they were the gatekeepers, the auditors, the essential people who stood at the choke point of the kingdom's wealth. They outlasted every invader, every king, and every dynasty, because nobody could rule without them. And that leaves us with a pretty mind-blowing question. If a tool like Sir William's key can unravel a 500-year-old murder mystery, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other earth-shattering historical truths are still out there, just hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right key to finally unlock them?